Welcome to Synchronicity. My guest this week is Lara from Pussy Church. She's been on before. Her podcast, Pussy Church, is great, out every Sunday. Speaking of which, this is a two-parter. This is part one. Part two will be out Sunday. I'm actually going to record some additional stuff related to sex and other things sex related, because that's what her podcast is about. It's pretty great. Check it out. You can check her out on Instagram, Tales of Lara. There'll be links, all of that stuff. She's great. We spoke about a bunch of stuff, not so much sex stuff. I think there was dick sucking talk. I think that's basically it. We were really talking kind of the nitty gritty of manifestation and kind of beginner, intermediate kind of realizations and some expert level shit. It was pretty cool. It's always nice to catch up with her. She's a good friend. So I think you're going to enjoy this episode. It's pretty fucking cool. And catch part two on her podcast on Sunday with some additional stuff that she'll drag out of me, because that's what she does. That's it. I mean, super short intro. Do I have anything else? Guys, take a look at what's going on in the world. Are we taking the stocks, the GameStop stuff? Who knows about this, where they're basically having individuals liquidate large hedge funds? We're living in peak reality. It's pretty amazing. Everything is getting decentralized, which is good. Bitcoin, I will stop mentioning it when it stops being a good idea to get some. So you don't have to get just Bitcoin. The Discord server's popping off. A lot of new patrons this cycle. There'll be details for what to do on the end of this episode. I don't want to bore you in the beginning. If you like it, you'll be there at the end. You fucking join the club. It's fun. That's it for this intro. It's going to be fucking good. I know it is, because it's already recorded. Here is Lara from Pussy Church. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear. We could basically just catch up. I'm interested to hear what's been going on with you, because wow, life has just been throwing the fucking curveballs and fastball balls at everyone. It's just
Oh my God,
unrelenting.
it's been insane. Unrelenting. No, it's been like so insane. Like I don't even know where to start because I think I mean, everyone was like, oh, 2020 is going to be over. And now we're in 2021 and new
No,
party. And you're like, oh, no,
not even close.
same party, worse. It's like later at night. You know what I mean? Like when you get really drunk and you just want to go home. Now it's just like at that point.
We're definitely like at the after party, and like when the fuck can we go to
Oh,
sleep.
yeah.
I know. I know.
You took too many drugs, you can't sleep. You're like, Jesus, when is this
Cracked out.
finally
Yeah.
over?
I feel like we're here for a decent amount, at least for me, having like, I feel like they come so hot and heavy, so many like just like challenges and like ego deaths and just like so many things coming at us. Um, I do think my response to those things has matured in some way, that like I'm
Yeah.
getting better at dealing with and like staying balanced during a lot of those things. And also I feel, at least now at this time period, how I'm taking 2021 at least, is like it's organized time. Like get set up, like get
Mhm.
yourself in the
Totally.
right position. You don't have to be exactly where you know you'll be in 5 years or what you're destined for, but like get
Because you do not know,
organized.
right? If anything is if it's taught us anything, I feel like it's like you have like planning only makes sense so far and you'll have to get used to curveballs constantly. I actually get like kind of weirded out. Like I got weirded out because I really settled into a groove, and then I was like, shit, I don't want to get used to this because I don't want this to be really my reality. But like now, at the moment, my reality is really
Yeah, you
nice,
you you said you're
considering.
in the beautiful, amazing snowy paradise. That's
Yes, I
good as gonna
am,
get.
and I kind of dreamt it up, in some kind of a sense. I wrote about this like a few weeks ago, and I was like, this is what I want, and then it kind of
Fan
happened.
Fancy that. That's amazing how that. I mean, I know I've recommended that to a lot of people in readings, just because whenever I do it, like, it's just, if you have a malleable enough mind to accept something like that actually working, and it works a few
Yeah, yeah.
times, you're like, "Oh shit, I think that probably always works." And it's related to like how much you allow it and believe in it, but it's a pretty good one. writing your
Well, it's funny because, like, sometimes, you try things and, like, we've talked so much, about, like, my ups and downs and yours and,
yeah.
um, but for sometimes it doesn't work in some kind of a sense, and you're like, "I don't know why, life's throwing, like, more lessons at me until I can have it," and something just happens. I mean, I envision to be completely fair, I envision myself with a man on the beach working and having sex. I Everything kind of is exactly that, but it's snowing outside and it's beautiful mountain,
Kind of the opposite in
climate.
climate, but, it is beautiful.
The
Yeah.
rest,
So, I
yes,
mean
yeah.
exactly, and you got the actual feeling of what you wanted, and that I think is super important too. Like, a lot of people time they'll
Yeah.
be like, "I wanna be here. I wanna be here. I wanna be this," and there's a feeling attached to it, which is what you actually want, and it's not necessarily the circumstances, and that kind of allowing things to kind of shape themselves based on the feeling is, like, that I think is a big lesson in a lot of this kinda manifestation stuff.
I mean, I find it so fascinating, honestly. I'm still I think every time I try to, like, make full sense out of what's happening in my life, it goes, like, the opposite way, like, is not productive. You said this to me the last time, you're just like, "Just
Yeah.
relax." And I'm like, because to be honest, I was thinking about this the other day too, and talking to a friend. I've experienced so much shit in my life, So, whenever, like, I can create something that's very beautiful, and I'm like, "Oh, I know I am creating the negative and the positive," right? And it's not like I've figured this shit out. It's just I'm getting closer to understanding that when something not so great happens, I'm like, "Oh, what is this trying to tell me? All right,
Right,
okay."
which is like a fundamental
Mm,
first
you know?
step of realizing like, "Oh, this stuff isn't here to fuck my shit up." I think that's like and
Yes.
that I think is so it's just like, evolving your perspective. Like, that's not why would anyone do that in the first place, like, to yourself? If you're gonna
I know.
well, why would you do that? And, like, people
Crazy.
do because they believe that that's what they're destined for, and that's why I try to, like,
Mm,
always just kinda crack it open as little as they need to be like, "Okay, I think I actually am gonna determine what's going on." And it's not that it's
yeah.
always easy to relax, like, there are some objectively
Mm.
difficult times, like, if you're on a plane and it feels like it's going down, it's not like, "Just relax, buddy." So I get that there is kind of, like, shit that happens in our lives, but ultimately, in those situations, whatever degree of kind of, like, peace and calm and relaxation we can find goes a long way. It's like a little bit goes a
Totally.
long way, and I do think the things that tend to be our trigger points as we can kind of like settle and like learn how to be like more kind of like steady in those that seems to be productive. It's like a gentle controlling of like your moods and emotions is probably how I describe it.
Yeah, because I think there's something, mainly in my life, it's always centered, like all the stuff that I'm struggling with is always relationships, right? Like it's a constant. I don't know what I actually was talking to an astrologist about my birth chart again like a few months ago. Um and like within my birth chart something shows like that I learn most through sex and
Oh,
relationships and I'm like
that's
that is
what a weird
actually
coincidence.
what a weird
Yeah.
coincidence that this is what I do
Yeah,
professionally and in my life. It's a constant
totally.
theme. And I was like, okay, if that is the way I learn, then everything that happens to me in that realm is not negative. It's just like so I can evolve. And those are the main triggers in my life that help me evolve in general, right? It's just those are the learning things. This is like where it's always going to hit me and where I always have to work through it in order to go further.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has a different I'm sure some people have constant problems with, I don't know, with their
People,
jobs or
money, it can be any of those things. And people move through cycles in life sometimes depending on, like, where
it's true.
I mean, I can say as someone who also tends to process most of, like, my biggest lessons and emotions through relationships. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's a valid it's because you know what it is because they're reflections of the one consciousness, which is fundamentally kind of what we are, even though we have these individual perspectives.
Mm.
So it's a really effective kind of like mirror-like strategy. Um, it's very
Yeah.
but, it's also really easy to get lost in those types of things and kind of consumed, I think, finding that delicate balance between like other and self is probably one of the bigger lessons we
Yeah.
learn here, because it's not one or the other. It's not a binary thing here. At other dimensions, it probably is. It's probably like, oh yeah, you're just you, or you're just this unity. Like so.
Yeah, here it's definitely, I mean, here in this reality, it's definitely, I mean, I think what helped me a lot is like we talked about this quite a bit, but like having this like idea that everybody who comes into your life is a mirror of something that's going on, right?
Always.
And not to say that they don't have like their own individuality and like their own shit going on that they're projecting on you or like they see in you. But I think that's, I mean, that lesson is pretty hard. I mean, I learned pretty hard lessons with that, because it was like, why the fuck am I working so hard on myself? And then these people come into my life where I'm like, they're so
Yeah.
destructive. And I'm like, oh, it is mirroring my own destruction. And like, how can I look into what I'm actually doing? Like, how am I sabotaging myself? How am I like I met this person, this guy, I told you about
Mhm.
him last August or
Yeah.
something. And he's real destructive, and I was just like, okay, what is it that is similar, like what do I carry within me, like what kind of
Where can
addiction
I
do
not
I
yes,
have?
where can I not otherize this person just because they're showing
Mhm.
me some clear things, like, where do I do that? That shit's useful.
Yeah,
That's the best.
I know, but it's hard. I mean, if you have to look at that shit, and you're
Infuriating.
like, where am I addicted? If somebody is addicted to something and you're like, why the fuck are you an addict? And I'm like, oh, where am I an addict? Like, not just drugs make
Of
you an
course.
addict.
Of course, it could be feelings, it could be
Sex can
sex.
make you an
Yeah, it
addict.
could be there's infinite things that you can be addicted to, and I think,
Yeah.
addiction is what I think we probably just call a strong tendency to repeat a certain kind of behavior. Um,
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice way
right?
to put it.
It's
Yeah.
just it's on a spectrum
Mhm.
of how we kind of recognize how we wanna control or work with that. Sometimes we feel like we're compelled to do something, like we have to do it, and,
Yeah.
questioning that and understanding where that maybe, the origin is always a useful thing. But at the end of the day, one thing I definitely learned about any type of habitual or addictive patterns is like, until you're done with that shit, you're not going to be done with it. Like everyone who's
Mm.
overcome addiction or done something, like they were either 100% done with it and they have the proper relationship, and whether they do it again, it won't be the same thing, or they're like just waiting. They're just waiting because that relationship hasn't ended yet. So, you know,
Yeah, but that's difficult because I think I was thinking about this exactly yesterday. I was like walking through the snow alone and I was okay, so my addiction. My addiction, so dramatic. But like a little bit like that. I was like, "Oh, what about my addiction?" So, if an addiction normally starts with like something bringing you some kind of a joy
yeah.
for a little bit, right? And then you repeat it over and over again, it starts to like bring you pain, right? And it gets uncomfortable and you're like, "Oh shit, like it's causing a lot of pain in my life."
Mhm.
Um and then it's kind of like step by step also making decisions. You're like, "Okay, maybe today I'm not smoking that cigarette. Don't suck that dick."
Sure, sure.
Depending which which addiction it
Yeah,
is.
I have the former. Yeah,
Like, is it a cigarette? Is it
yeah,
a dick? Is it the same in the end? Um, but to be like, okay, maybe today I'll leave it. Like, it doesn't mean that I'll never suck a dick again or smoke
right,
a cigarette
right.
again. And to give yourself like one day at a time kind of choices with that.
Yeah, I think it's also this I was thinking about this the other day. It's directly related to this, like, working with addiction. So, if you're just starting right?
Addiction.
There you go. If you're just like starting to discover that maybe you have some influence on kind of what happens in your life based on your moods and feelings, just being able to change that. If you start immediately claiming when you're, a chronic dick sucker or a chronic or
It sounds like I only suck dick. Like,
can't stop. It's all I can do. So whether that or cigarettes or any other addiction you have, and you say in the moment, I am not addicted to that. I am not. That will not work. What you're actually doing is
yeah.
crystallizing the subconscious belief, which is probably a deep impression at that point that you are. So any conscious kind of like
Mm.
pushing away of it tends to have the opposite effect. So what you were saying, like to how your approach of taking it one day at a time or making them choice based there, I I think the better way of doing it if you're a beginner, if you're just getting familiar with this stuff, is to be like, "You know what? Every day I'm getting better at, like, at use
Mm.
you know what?
Mhm.
The choices I'm making are better. I'm getting healthier.
Yeah,
I'm getting more successful. I'm getting"
totally.
all just basic things. That way you kinda create your subconscious will accept that. That's a reasonable thing subconscious will almost
Mhm.
always believe. When you get to the point where you kind of have worked that magic enough times, I guess, in enough areas that were like big things in your life, you can then get to the point where you start self-identifying with having everything or being everything. And then it becomes
Yeah.
easier just to accept certain states of consciousness rather than being like, "Oh, I have to fight against this thing because I don't want to do it." Right? That's
Yeah, I mean, it's also like in the beginning, like you said, it's really difficult to be like, because the first step kind of is like I'm an addict, right? But like in every, even if you go to AA, right? Like that's
totally.
the first thing you say, I'm an alcoholic. And even for example, you actually taught me that too. Got really frustrated about the situation in the summer where I met this person and it was really difficult. And then the first thing I had to do afterwards was like, I had to admit that I liked this
Yeah.
person and it didn't work.
Right.
You know, I was like, I just like have to say, I just liked him. It's fine. It's impossible, but it's fine. And then it took so much pressure out of
Yeah.
it, right? Because if I would have thought something like now, I'd be like, oh, I'm not an addict, or tomorrow I'll be perfect. That's my subconscious is gonna be
No
like,
way.
what the fuck are
No
you
way,
saying?
Jose.
I
That's the
mean,
thing, you can't
yeah.
fight with your subconscious. I mean, we have these terms, masculine and feminine energies, masculine being objective, conscious mind, kind of directive, and it's not a gender thing. And then feminine being subjective, kind of, you can imprint it with different things. It's a lot
Mm.
in my experience working with like feminine energy, wherever it comes from. You can't just like run up on it. You can't be like, "Hey, this is what you need to do now." Like,
I
that should
know.
never in the history
It never
has
works.
ever
No.
worked in any situation. But if you're like, "Hey, you know what? This is where we are now, but here's an idea. Doesn't this sound maybe interesting at some point to you?" That tends to get accepted more on like a deeper level than like firmly. The beauty is, like I'm saying, at a certain point, you do kind of get to just instantly claim certain states. And you'll notice it when you're in a very challenging or previously triggering situation and you start handling it with
Yeah.
like a little more grace, a little more equanimity. So it works both ways. But I think initially, especially in like seem to be pretty chaotic times for most people, um,
Hmm.
gently kind of massaging the idea by saying like every day things are getting better. I'm doing better.
Yeah.
That's good.
I also heard I was having this long discussion with a shaman, funny enough, a few months back, and he was talking about seduction. The word seducing has like so many negative
Totally.
connotations, right? Um, but he was more talking about, and I'm gonna paraphrase and like kind of add the things that I learned from it, because I'm probably not gonna be able to say exactly what he said. But but the thing was about like seducing yourself, right? To, like you said, you can't just like run up on yourself and like scream and be like, now it's different. Now you're different. Do this. But if you seduce yourself in a way of like, doesn't that feel nice? You want to try that feeling for a little bit. Can you like experience it again? Can you make yourself feel that way again? And that being obviously the healthier choice, hopefully, that you're trying to seduce yourself with. That actually works really well. I mean, I figured out a way, even last summer, to create the feeling of being in love for myself
Yes.
without anybody else. It is the most fascinating thing. I can't hold it for a long time. I mean, hopefully later on I will be. Um, because that's probably, I mean, not the dicks, that was a joke, but that feeling is my addiction, right? Um, and I'm starting to create my own drug in a sense,
Totally.
in a positive
Totally.
way. And so I seduce myself away from like maybe hurting myself in order to get that feeling. And I'm trying to connect it with something different.
That's probably one of the best things you can do, like internally, alchemy wise, because when you actually start holding that kind of like frequency for yourself, you have so much more latitude in where and how you approach things that come into your world, right? There's not going to be
I feel like you do this really well.
I do now. I do now, and I've gotten
Yeah.
to see that as I continue to kind of maintain that and understand it. Like, it came with a certain kind of unpackaging of things I inherently kind of knew from a very young age. I think everyone knows this. Like, when you're a kid, for the most part, you're not really having questions about self-worth and like self-esteem.
Yeah.
That comes
No.
later when there's interactions with other people. So everyone is inherently kind of born with this quality to love themselves and feel good, but
Yeah.
it is sometimes a lot of unpacking of that as you go through time to remember it and then just accept it. And it it's pretty great, I gotta say, because it doesn't immunize you from like all negative experience. It's sometimes it's the
Yeah.
opposite, but it does kind of teach you that your reactions and moods, even if there are tendencies there, are alterable and you can have different results, that come back to reinforce what you believe show up as well. Instead of like, something pushing you past the point where it's now everything is like fucked up in your relationships or like your world and like really becoming like catastrophic. Maybe that stuff doesn't stop to happen. Maybe the same type of things, but it's not the same result. And so like you get to like you have an ability to test this stuff. That to me is the most
Yes.
important thing, is like it's not take my word for it, take someone else's word for it. It's like, get into these states of consciousness of really like being self-sufficient, Nine of Pentacles energy, like really embodying self-love, the Ace of Cups stuff, like
Yes.
that type of energy really serves people in the long run because it's not dependent, it's not relational, it's like it's unconditional.
Well, but also, like, how do you want, I mean, if you get into a relationship, in the end, this is not just romantic, right? Like, this is
Totally.
any it is any relationship you have, that obviously is often connected with some love, and even if it's hate, it's like
Totally.
love reversed, you know? But in some kind of a sense, I do feel like I thought about this quite a bit. I was like, okay, you can complain about things that come into your life or whatever, but in some kind of a sense, if you're not able to do it for yourself, you can't expect anybody else to give it to you. And it sounds so cliche, but it is the truth. No, I mean, how am I if I'm completely um fucked up, for lack of a better way to put it? I can't expect somebody to come and like be amazing to me because I'm not even amazing to
Or if
myself.
you do, it's not that you should be wary, but you should recognize kind of what you might be attracting at that point too. Like you
Yes.
really
Ooh.
every good thing that's gonna come into someone's life is gonna truthfully come from a place of like confidence and belief and like feeling good. There doesn't mean you can't get blessings and like amazing things when you're at a low point and not feeling good that come into your life
No,
at all.
of
It's
course not.
just,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like what you feel you're deserving of is constantly what you're giving yourself, is the way I would describe it. And that can be as simple as like psychologically, the mood you put yourself in, or you can take it literally like a lunatic like me, which means like actually different things are going to come into your world and appear differently because of your internal kind of change, which seems to be the case most of the time. But yeah, it's a constant process of like self reflection.
Wait, so you're saying, because there's a huge difference, because I feel like for me, you said this, you always say this when you talk about manifestation, that you manifest something and you let go of it, in a sense, like it can come whenever it wants to come into your life. And this is like where I struggle the most, because I'm always like, so I've been manifesting and imagining this. Where the fuck is it?
Yeah, but that's the thing.
It's taking a long
But
time,
that's
which is, I know.
how does that compare? But how does that compare with the things that have happened? What are those things like? Do you think about them in the same way? Do you ask, "Why has it happened? When is it coming?" Like, where is the difference? Sometimes I do. I'm not even saying, like, you never do that. Sometimes something that I know is coming, I will ask those questions, and then I look back, I'm like, "I
Mm,
waited 2 days before I started asking that
I know,
question," and it's like,
totally.
"What am I doing?"
Totally.
Like, this is, like, a big fucking thing, and I waited 2 days, and I'm like, "Well, it's not gonna happen." But even so, but I've noticed the ones that, like, really have tended to get pushed back, um, that's there's an energy there of doubt. There's an energy of like, am I gonna see
Totally.
it? Like, is it actually gonna happen? But that's just fuel for the fire. Like, that's something to work with. And ultimately, you will forget about it. One great thing about having like human consciousness is we're the most forgetful. It's insane how bad
Oh my God.
collectively, individually memory is for people. It's just bad.
Oh
Like even
yeah,
people with
it's
the best
terrible.
memories, it's like not that good in terms of recall.
I forget names
I
like
forget everything.
fools.
I forget a lot of stuff. I have a very loose grip on time as it is. So, like, anyway, that is a tool though that can be used because you will forget things that you really wanted. That's why when things happen, like
I love this.
people
Yes.
will be like, I wanted this thing when I was a little girl, a little boy, and like I never thought about it for the next like 20 years. And now I look where I am and like, here it is. Like, that's because you
Totally.
forgot about it. You just like totally let it simmer and do its thing. And then that also make you don't tend to ask questions when you recognize that's what's going on. You'll be like, all right, it's not here yet. I would have preferred if it was here. That would have been nice, but it's not. Doesn't mean it's not coming. Just means that like I clearly have some energy there, or it's a sufficiently big enough thing that it requires kind of like a gestation period, like, having a kid or
Yes.
like whatever it is. There are things that objectively take more time. Subjectively, they do too. The cool thing is you can employ this kind of like quantum level jumping for some things that maybe seem very improbable for other people. Most
Mhm.
people, it's inconceivable to them that they could have like hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just like people just
Like
or
tomorrow.
just in general, hundreds of billions. It's
Yeah.
just like something most people don't wanna devote the mental, emotional exertion to believe that. Some people do.
Mhm.
Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they literally that's what they believe,
They did,
and
yeah.
so that always is within our control, but it's like, do you really? Is that really what you want, your heart's desire? For them, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if do are you gonna put that much, effort and time into that, right? Because in some kind I don't know, I thought, um, one of my favorite poets is Rilke, and he said everything is being pregnant and giving birth, right? So whatever how long a pregnancy takes is probably, depends on the
Yep,
species or the issue. But everything takes that time of like being
totally.
like a seed that, comes to being in some kind of a way. So I guess maybe it depends on like what you said, the trust that you have that it will actually happen like that.
I I've just come to find that that seems to be, if not the only, like, the main determining factor on whether things happen the way you felt they would, and this is where you
Mhm.
can start getting into things like time frames, like that's kind of, I don't want to say it's like an advanced thing. I actually don't employ it that much, but I have, where there's like a time frame where something you really like want and need, that's a delicate dance you have to do. That's not something you can just approach, and like for at least for me, like with super ease. Like I'm like, all right, there's something that has to happen. Let me not freak out. Let me not like put too much pressure on this. But let me honor the fact that there's something in linear time here that I need to happen. So, um, it's a dance. I think as long as you can remain like playful, kind of curious and
Yeah.
light about these things, that protects you from most of kind of, and there's nothing wrong with failing. There's nothing wrong with imagining something or trying to manifest something and then not getting it exactly when you want it. I guarantee there's a big lesson that you'll take away from it. It's just you don't have to believe that you can't do it. You don't have to believe that it's impossible. So,
I mean, I wonder sometimes, because I've gotten a lot of things that I wished for in my life. So, but I think there's something about, like the Rolling Stones song, I get no set
what you
or
want to get what you
what is
need.
that? Oh yeah, exactly. So I feel like that sometimes I get something for example, right now. I imagine the beach. I'm in the mountains. Minor detail, but it's in some kind of a sense, it's fine if it's a little bit different, right? It doesn't have to be exactly the way you saw it on TV.
Or
Or maybe it can be.
Or
I don't know.
it maybe means you'll be at a beach at a different point in time, and a similar and then you'll be, like,
True.
looking at that time being like, "Oh, this was it. I thought it was that, and I was thinking it was supposed to be a beach, but it was obviously supposed to be snowy mountains. I just got those wires tangled." Like, that's typically, I don't say this is, like, just offering potentials. That's how it's usually worked in my life. When I'm like, "Oh, this wasn't the thing
Yeah.
I exactly wanted," then I'll be like, "Oh, shit, A was better," usually. Then another time comes along, I'm like, "Oh, this was it. Oh my god." Like, I had this happen a ton in the past years.
Really?
Yeah, because then it happens and you're like, "Oh my god, I was, like, actually thinking about this thing as though it didn't happen." Sometimes that gets you to the point of letting go, by the way. Like, that
Oh, because you thought it already
you're like, "It's
happened.
done, alright, I don't have to worry about that thing anymore," and it sifts into the subconscious.
Yep.
Now, the double-edged sword of this is this works for everything. It's not just what we would call pleasant things that we want.
Oh,
So, like, if you
yes.
think something really
Mhm.
bad is gonna happen to you, you weigh it around, then you just kind of forget it, and you didn't deal with kind of the emotional resonance of it. Doesn't mean that exact bad thing is gonna happen to you. We're actually a little more kind and gentle towards things,
But
but it can. That stuff does kind of get into our being or psyche, whatever you want to call it. A lot of
Yeah.
it is clearing that stuff out. That requires a fair amount of self introspection and like honesty to like really like deal with like shadow parts of yourself that aren't like rosy and like, just everything is
Yeah.
great. It's like, oh, I'm kind of a piece of shit sometimes. Like, oh, I fucking, oh wow,
Totally.
I'm a real asshole there, like fucking A. But like dealing with that stuff in a way that doesn't castigate or like chastise or denigrate it, that's kind of a lot of what people are clearing out.
Yeah.
I think we're doing that.
I mean, I think it's really interesting. What I always thought about, myself, like for a long time, I would be loudly proclaiming that I wanted something specific in my life, right? And all my actions were the opposite. So it was like, obviously, I was just not wanting that. I was just saying it because I thought I was supposed to want that, maybe. Um, and there, in some kind of a sense, you still get what you really wanted, right? It just will look a little funny because you always pretended like you didn't,
And
you
right,
know?
it's this conscious subconscious thing, right? Like
Mm.
consciously we can really think we want this very specific thing. And that's like when you opened
Mm.
up with the feeling, like the feeling of what you wanted is pretty damn close. Like that thing is going to be way closer than the specifics. Like we're very, at least most
Yeah.
people, including myself, like kind of clunky at predicting things accurately. Like you can get the feeling of how it feels to be in an amazing
Yeah.
environment and that joy or whatever it is, that it brings up for you. But the specifics of it, sometimes we're just not so great at in that specific thing. Chances are, if it really is like, if it's a true desire to go to the fucking beach and be on the beach for you, I guarantee you'll like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you'll,
The beach was probably the smallest detail of that,
yeah,
equation. The rest was way more important. Well, yeah, I mean, I think I had like this thing too, because it was simultaneously just showing like how things can like be good and bad at the same time. Um, Last summer, I developed the skill of like making myself feel in love with the world, basically, or with myself, or
how'd you do that?
and it
What did
really
you do? What do you do to do that?
this is um it's very interesting because I think a few things came together in a sense. Like I acted for a long time, right? So like I learned different techniques of like recreating feelings, but it changed because I also went to a shaman and did like a lot of psychedelic experiences that showed me different parts of myself, especially my heart. This sounds so simple now, but like, yes, love psychedelic drugs for,
You're preaching
to
to the
like
choir.
open your,
Yeah.
I know, open your consciousness and like see different parts of yourself. It's like so valuable. I don't even know why not everybody is doing this. But something, the first time I went to a shaman and I had a journey, there was something that he said to me while I was feeling like what I was in. I took like a plant. I only take plants, but like a plant medicine, and it opened my heart like very extremely so. Like, and he said to me, he's like, "Remember." It's the only thing he said to me while I was in the trip, and I remember that later. And I was like, "What is he saying about remember? What should I remember?" And it was that feeling that I kept on like remembering. I was like, "Wait, how does this feel like in my body? How does it feel like in how does it tingle on my skin? Like how can I you can cheat yourself a little bit with like actually imagining it with like a person that actually has helped you trigger that. But you only need that for like a second.
Right. It's like an
It's
anchor.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly. You're like, "Oh, that person, how did that feel?" Okay. How does it feel right now in my body? Like you can do crazy things to you completely sober. I mean,
Yeah.
you can lie in your bed and basically nearly have an orgasm without touching yourself.
Totally.
Like, and not even like, I mean, a love orgasm, really, not just like a
Yeah.
physical,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
Totally.
And I can hold it for specific amounts of time and then it kind of goes away. But it's nice because, um, you can feel that in that moment. But what happened pretty quickly after that is I met this person that I was talking about earlier. That was a big lesson for me. But I was like, this is ridiculous. Now I'm learning how to do this for myself. I would think I'm gonna attract something great, you know? I'm gonna be this person. I'm like, oh my god, all this crazy love is gonna come to me.
Right.
um, and it was and this is like so confusing. Then a friend of mine said to me, maybe this person came into your life because of your fear that a person like this will come into your life. And I was like, now my brain's like exploding, you know? I'm like, this is fucked up. How much shit, can you make up? But really, this is what you said. It's like if there was a thought before that where I was like, I'm afraid that this will happen, then I forgot it and it still manifested
Totally. That's what
because
fears are, by the way. It's an uncertainty in kind of how all this shit works. That's really all it is at the end of the day. It's an uncertainty about what our personal agency over our experience is. That's it. That's why we can fear death. We can fear relationships. We can fear losing reputation, power, control, whatever it is. I think a big reason people love psychedelics so much, for better or for worse, is it does kind of demolish those constructs quickly enough. Now,
totally.
that doesn't mean you're going to crush your ego. Not you personally, but someone who takes psychedelics, you can get your ego crushed and just like completely reconstitute it and not have to
Oh,
say anything. I
totally.
mean, I go to any psychedelics forum on the internet and just watch people arguing about what psychedelics are to be like, holy shit, like this doesn't necessarily have the same amount of impact for people all the time. But
Mm-mm.
if you can catch one of those blasted open states and still maintain your awareness, know that like you're not Lara anymore. You're not Noah anymore. You can but still know you're something. In those states, the more you
Mhm.
can remember what that's like, the less fear tends to come with being like bound in these bodies and experiences and relationships. And the more freedom you have
Yeah.
to move around. And I think ultimately that is like one of the truest expressions of love is like freedom, like being free. That's
Yeah.
why there's a great, I think it's a Kabir quote, and it's like, make not a bond of love. That's how it starts. And it's like a whole nice, beautiful thing. And that's what it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to like bind and hold on to a rigid sense of
Mm.
identity of what it is to love or be loved, but it's to be free and allow that to be kind of a dynamic process and an expression. I also believe that's what this world fundamentally is, good and bad, light and dark. It's like
Totally.
that's an expression of love, even if it looks to us in duality like, oh my God, objectively evil, horrible thing. Like, yeah,
Or like horrible experience, right? Like in yeah, you know how many and I know this is obviously something that I'm trying to work on because I don't always want to learn like hard lessons constantly, you know what I mean? Uh, but it has a lot of things that I've experienced that in that moment I thought were really horrible, were literally the trigger for the greatest transformation and therefore healing processes,
that's like that for, I mean,
for everybody, I
right? I
think,
mean, no,
nearly.
I will say there, I haven't spoken to many of them, but there are people who do take negative experiences and just, I don't want to say take the wrong lesson, but are just like, oh yeah, no, like I'm no good. We're
Oh, that's me. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that you
Mhm,
don't
mhm.
wanna do that because it really, at the end of the day, is kind of a victim mentality, and not in like, "Oh, you're bad," and you
Yeah.
can also feel victimized by that, but it's just like, no, it's not accurate. Like, it's never accurate. Like, I haven't met a person yet who's like, "Oh, they're not worthy. They're not okay. Like, they fucked up so bad that they can't." That's also not a very elevated perspective to look at things. Like if you can accept that duality is just one aspect of everything, of the infinite, then you
Mm.
don't have to just be bound by even if it's your direct experience most of the time. Not even all the time. That's the thing. Like people are like, well, duality is, I'm always in duality. There's always here you are when you go to sleep at night. Who the fuck knows where you are most of the time? Sometimes you're in
Sure.
dreamland, sometimes you're in that. Who knows? So it's not even like your whole experience of like being alive is just this. So anyway, my point is that there's a ability to kind of modulate our experience in duality with just fundamentally knowing we're good. Like that I was thinking about this on the way
Yes.
over to my place today. I was like, just like you're good no matter what. Like that's like something you figured out. I'm talking to myself like a long time ago.
Yep.
And like I just
Mhm.
accept it. Like even if I do something, I'm like, that was a little shady. Maybe I should have let it ride. Like I know what my intention is. And this I
Yeah.
think for some people can get scary. It can verge on being narcissistic or having like just a singular outward point of view. No one that I've met really falls into that trap. It really doesn't
Yeah.
tend to turn into that. When you fundamentally love yourself and are forgiving of yourself, you tend to be loving and forgiving to other people, and you tend to just not find yourself in situations even that would, you know, cause. Yeah.
I yeah, I think I mean, ye wow. I mean, I don't know if narcissism is a real thing, right? Um, in a lot of people, and I'm not saying that there's no narcissistic parts within me even, you know? Um, but I think that if you work from a place of like loving yourself and therefore giving love to others, if that's called narcissism, like let's all do it. I mean, in that
But it can
sense, I
be
think it wouldn't.
a fundamental question of, like, self-worth and self-value. A lot of people
Mm,
don't love themselves to the point to feel confident that everything they're doing is an expression of that. But when you
yes.
self-identify all of this, like, manifestation, imaginal stuff, I really do think it's like a bait and switch. Everyone, including myself, goes after a specific material relation. They go after stuff, and they should because it's amazing. But ultimately, you get to the point where you're like, "All right, I'm self-identifying with the ability to kind of allow anything into my reality. Can I self-identify with, like, the highest ideal, whether people call it Christ consciousness or just God or whatever you wanna call it? Just can I self-identify with that? Can I be an expression of that in a normal way that I can still engage in the world? That seems to be what most people are inevitably led to, whatever they call it, whether it's a mystic or a poet or an artist or just some guy on the
Yeah.
street. That's where everyone is eventually led to. When you get to that point, I know for a lot of my life, I thought if that happens and it like clicks in, I'll probably die. And a lot of times, I'll be honest, when I'm like really
Mm.
whacked out on psychedelics, I'm like, I think I'm dead. I'm like, holy shit. Like I think this is
Of course,
and
yeah.
I do think that's not even totally far off. What we call living in this life is probably closer to a state of death, which is kind of a bound, limited, crystallized state than
Mm.
actually what we imagine not having an identity in this kind of existential dread of, like, not having
Yeah.
that's just a thought. I've
I mean, it could be. I mean, I do have to say that, like, I think it is kind of difficult to have these moments where you just feel very free, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily psychedelics. Um, Meditation can do something similar, and like some weird flashbacks. I've literally thought I'm like losing my mind several times in my life where I was like, this is a little nuts. Like I think either you're a psychic or a psycho, like I'm
like,
not
that's a
sure.
daily
Uh,
experience,
I'm
but a lot of them. Yeah,
like not
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Like
could go either way.
as long I'm not hurting
Yeah,
anybody, like it doesn't
yeah,
actually matter
yeah.
probably. Um, but I felt this before where I was like, there's so much, even when I'm creating these feelings because I'm working a lot with that. Like I write a lot about love experiences and not necessarily romantic as in like our world, but like what does love feel like and how does it work? And um, I have like a practice of doing that. And then there is sometimes when I create a feeling that is so strong that it's nearly like a psychedelic trip.
Totally.
And then I was writing, especially for me, it happens with writing. It's just my conduit to like doing these things. And I was writing and I'm having this like intense experience. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm capable of living like that constantly. If because that's me. I know that that's just my energy that's always in me. And somehow I created something that's pushing it down most of the time. So it's somehow about like
Yeah,
expanding my capabilities of like living that constantly and still being active. Like not being like, I can't talk because I'm like fucking tripping all day on my own like insanity, but like being able to love that strongly and still be functional.
it took me a fair amount of time, a linear time, I'll tell you.
It's kind of it is nuts. So it is nuts. It's like really, I'm like, okay, I can hold this for a while, and then I kind of like release it because I'm like, oh my god, exhausting. Like, whew, how am I gonna have a normal conversation with somebody?
Yeah, I mean,
But to stay in longer and
I
longer,
think you
maybe I don't know.
get to the point where it's like lifting a weight or something where you just get comfortable with that.
Mm,
There's always a baseline you're achieving. I mean, I think that's the cool thing. It might seem like Sisyphus for to some people, but like you're always going to be striving. You're always going to be pushing. That's
yeah.
some aspect of linear time and space. Whatever. I just accept it. It's fine. I don't think it's a bad thing. But being able to kind of move that baseline up of being at that point where you're
Yes.
kind of now, there is a point, and there's visual evidence, and I can attest to it when I lived in kind of a chronic state of just like awe and bliss. it is hard to be functional at a certain point. Now, what it is dependent on, I think where it gets easier is the more people who recognize that is even a place that exists for people to reside in consciously, then you have a better opportunity. My game, I would say, the more I understand it, is to try to get people to recognize that is kind of a choice. We have nothing actually to be afraid
Yeah.
of in terms of releasing that out. There's not going to be some negative ramifications. In fact, it's just the opposite. And it feels very liberating. And that's a function to that. It's not like we're keeping it down because we're
Yeah.
bad. The feeling you feel, it is very like orgasmic. Like you're releasing something. You feel
Yes.
really good.
Yes.
The key is like you can, use it to like jump to different levels of consciousness and be aware that you're doing that because if you don't have the
But it's
awareness that you're doing it on some level, it can just be like,
yeah.
"What the fuck? What is going on?" Like,
Yeah, yeah, I'm losing my
yeah,
mind or
and
something, yeah.
yeah,
But
that's gonna be
don't you did you find it funny because, like, there is something about that that's, like, a nice correlation to sex? I mean, for me, it has something to do with it to a certain degree, not because I get into that state necessarily, but, for me, sex has always been something, like, where I release and I let go and I'm
totally
not in this world, you know? And that's why I like it so much because I've tried to explain this to a partner of mine, and I was like, I for me I'm not in my head when I have sex. It's the opposite. So for me, and I'm normally a lot in my head. I'm a writer. I'm like thinking a
yeah,
lot, overthinking everything most of the time. When I have sex, I do not. But I think a lot of people they're already really afraid of sex in general and of letting go there and have even afraid of their orgasm, right? No, for there's a lot of reasons why orgasms are connected to falling, right? Letting go, like dissolving, like all of these things that happen to you, or how people explain their orgasms, is often this like sense of losing control
totally. Letting yourself
and
go.
basic,
Yeah,
yeah, imploding and like, or being yeah, I mean, if you have like a cosmic orgasm, anyway, it's a little bit different. But people are even afraid of that because so many people in my life lately have told me, that so many men, let's be clear, actually, very fascinating, that they are afraid of losing control. And I was like, why is everybody telling me this? Because I'm like, I think I've worked a lot on my control. Apparently, not enough because the mirror is constantly like, what about that control
yeah,
thing? What about
yeah,
that control thing?
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have an issue with my control. I let go all the time. Uh, but it's interesting, right? That people are so afraid, or even me saying, like, I'm afraid that I couldn't handle living in that state for a long time, that we're trying to control the most pleasurable and beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's my stance on reality. Basically, that's what
Fucking nuts.
it's you know what I mean? Like, that's everyone's challenge, though, is to feel comfortable enough to kinda relax, I think, into themselves. That's ultimately what it
Yeah.
is. Everything does seem on some level to become if psychedelic is the term, brighter, more vibrant. It's like,
Mm.
when you go out in nature, even if you're stone cold sober and you're just like, "Oh my god, this is the most amazing thing
Oh
I've ever."
god, so gorgeous, yeah.
So it's like
Mhm.
that's seems to be a major facet. I did some DMT about a month ago, maybe a little longer, and it was not a pleasant experience for me. I was on
Did you do normal or 5-MeO?
my friends who do 5-MeO, like, let me tell you, props to them.
I did it.
I bet you did. I mean, like, I don't even like, I did okay, I had smoked changa before, and it was fine, it was beautiful, it's, like, amazing, I'm like, "Oh, my dreams are coming true, this is so great," and then in fairness, and I learned my lesson, and it relates to this beauty thing, but I was on ketamine, I had been doing some acid, there was some nitrous, and I was like, "Break out the."
Wait, all together? Is this like what we're
Yeah.
talking about?
This is, it's just
Oh shit.
a regular Friday night. Not regular Friday. What was it? So anyway,
Oh man.
um, I was like, "Break out the DMT," and I had never smoked it, like, the regular way.
Wait, you did all these things before you smoked the
Yeah,
DMT? Oh my
don't do
god, dude.
that.
Okay.
So my
All right.
recommendation to people is don't do that because what
Yeah.
happens is fucking insane and, will freak you out for a little bit. So anyway, I'm not gonna go into the whole experience. I've spoken about it enough here. I'll tell you some other time, but the first thing I remember when I was, like, really reintegrating my consciousness, I pulled the ripcord way too soon, by the way, and I was like, "Oh my god, where am I?" I thought everyone was vampires. So I, came back, and one of the first things I was, like, immediately grateful for was how beautiful just that beauty existed as a
Mm,
concept, number one, and that we get to
yeah.
live in a place that more often than not, if we choose to pay attention to it, there's beautiful shit fucking everywhere. Like it's literally all over
Yes.
the place. So I think that's like a major facet of this reality, what it feels to be human or to be here and experience that. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of going after that as kind of an ideal and letting it kind of move you to greater states of, feeling good, feeling uh,
Yeah, and this concept of beauty, I think it's such an interesting one. There's this, and I forgot his name now. I'll look it up later, but he's like a British or no Irish priest actually, and he died I think like 10 years ago or something. A priest, but like basically it's like mysticism that he talks about, and he wrote this book about
I know who you're talking
beauty.
about. I don't remember the name. Keep going.
What's his
I'll remember. Just
name?
keep going.
And he, yeah, but like super interesting concept. Like because he comes from obviously religion, right? He comes from Christianity, but it doesn't, he talks about God mm, in a very broad concept. Like things that we both could also agree on,
Totally.
I think, where it doesn't have to be like you don't have to be, baptized in church or some shit to like understand and feel that. And he talks about a lot about nature and how beauty, we think about beauty as like some concept of our society or capitalism or like our the way we look or whatever, but really beauty in like within and with nature, which I think when you said that, I mean nature has like a religious, it's like a religious experience for
Totally.
me often,
Yeah.
right? Or
That.
a spiritual, maybe
Yeah.
it's
No,
better.
I mean, it's one of the best things that can remind you that you're in a pretty amazing place when you actually like are aware of it, right? But you could be in the middle of like picturesque beauty, but if you're directing your consciousness or placing your awareness on something else in that surrounding, um, you're going to be completely ignorant to that in that moment in time.
Yeah.
So again, it's not that we're always supposed to be in nature and with the birds, and maybe for some of us that's what we're supposed to be in nature all the time. But I think it's like just a remembrance that that's not random. It's not just like we happen
Yes.
to find ourselves in this particular sector of time and space. Like there's a relationship between our consciousness and that and our awareness. And I think appreciating that tends to be a good move to do.
Yeah, I just found the dude actually, I don't know how to say it. John O'Donohue, I think.
Adonahue,
And
Adonahue.
O'Donohue probably, the inner landscape of beauty, that's the
I
thing
was
if
thinking it's
somebody
called
wants to check it out.
the inner landscape of beauty. That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, most mystics, most people who really like contemplate this stuff come to the same fundament. I mean, that was like one of the early stepping
Mm,
stones for me is just recognizing wherever you go across cultures, religions, mystics, they're all talking about the same fucking thing. It's not like there's no deviation. They're all like, "Hey, guess what, guys? Like, it's you. This you're an
we all
aspect
one.
of one. This is what's going on." May have completely different, breakdowns of what's going on, but even that's accommodated for when you understand how consciousness works. Because of course it's true. It's all true. It's literally like your
Yeah.
consciousness is creating a reflection of something that is universally always true. You're not going to create some wrong thing. You can be misguided. You could have like a weird thing that gets dissonant with kind of a collective vision of what this is, but it's all part of the same thing. That I guess when you really like come in contact to that like internally, it can be a little discombobulating. It can be a little disorienting. Hope you enjoyed that episode. It was very pleasurable, right? There's part 2 is on Sunday, this Sunday. Go check out Pussy Church in advance. It's a really good show, sex positive show, lots of cool stuff. Also, she usually features art stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Some of like the best like erotic art that's out there. It's just cool fucking sometimes psychedelic shit. I'm sure you caught in this episode. We were talking a little psychedelics, fun times. That's all I got. Oh no, I told patrons. There's a lot of new patrons. Thanks for joining. I have a feeling a lot of you are there for the Discord and the fun things that go on in there. For people who are joining, I post the Discord link. It's a 24-hour link regularly because I don't leave it up because it becomes hard to track. Again, it's kind of lifetime access. Not kind of, it is. If you join and you hate the Patreon and you think it's the worst thing ever, you can cancel. You still have access to the Discord, which is a fun place. So that's cool to do if you're into that. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. I said it all in this podcast. There's lots of stuff I said. I just did a Q&A on the Patreon and a live stream yesterday. It was a lot of stuff. So I'm gassed. PPP. I can say that. Got a new synth. That's fucking fun. Bonus chat at the end here, guys. Love ya. It's a really cool synth. Virus TI Polar. Have to get a synth called Virus these times. I had it before in 2010. It's amazing. You'll hear it on the podcast. Music coming out from me and Bill. Check that out. My music released on Spotify. More coming. Gonna do a Bandcamp. I think people like Bandcamp. Gonna do that. All that music available on the Patreon early. Otherwise, just wait. It'll hit the streaming services. That's it. That's it, guys. Lots of love. Until next week. Happy imagining.